bro, this.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Calling Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Jones. I'm going to apologize ahead of time. My voice is somewhat going in and out. And if I start coughing or need help, call 911. No, don't call 911. I'll be fine. But I want to thank you all for joining us once again. This podcast where we talk to first responders and military. And we talk about the things that they face, the problems that they have, and the people who are doing really good work to help. So that's what we do. I want to remind you, please hit the button and subscribe to the channel, and also share this with your friends. Leave comments as well. We get to see those comments, and we want to know what you're thinking, and then we could address them on future shows. So all that started, I got a great guest. I got to tell you right now, we just did about a 1-hour show before the show started. He and I talking about Philly. So you know he's a good guy because he roots for the Eagles. This is Richard Buzz Bryan. He goes by Buzz. And you are from West Palm Beach Veterans Administration Healthcare System.
I am.
So how you doing, man?
I'm well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I got to make the trek from West Palm to Davie, Florida. Which is always fun. South Florida roads.
It's a good it's fine as long as there's no traffic.
Right.
You get traffic, then it's.
And the beautiful thing is you get to take the turnpike. So you don't have to deal with the 95 nightmare once you get into Broward, because you're crossing into Broward and look the hell out.
Yeah, I know. They haven't finished that express lane yet there. Once that's done, it'll still be a mess. I'm guaranteed it. It's still going to be a mess.
Absolutely.
So, Buzz, first of all, so you work at the VA, so that I'm going to make the assumption, and we're all going to assume you're a military guy.
I am. Tell
us about the service that you had in the military.
So, born and raised in Philadelphia, you said that. Father was a Vietnam veteran, a Philly fireman. I was that typical Philly kid, didn't know what I wanted to do, went to Catholic school, found ways to get into trouble. Not crazy trouble, but.
How come everybody's father who was from Philly was a fireman?
I don't know. I guess they didn't want
There's so many people, right?
I guess they didn't want you to go. It was like, you can't go to public school. I'm like, well, I'm going to get in trouble in Catholic school too, Dad. But and you don't have to pay tuition. But he did. I left. I was barely 18 years old. Had no idea what I wanted to do in life. I had some ideas, but, wasn't really sure. So I enlisted in the Navy. The plan was to go into the Marine Corps. But, in Philly, like you go to Cottman Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard, and it's like a gauntlet. And it's by seniority, the recruiting station, Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force. And
like you go to South Ave to go shopping, you go to there to enlist, right?
Right. So my dad says, take your ass to go see the Marine recruiter, enlist, and get out of here. You need to grow up a little bit. So I get there. And of course, the Marine Corps recruiter's not there. I'm like, all right, well, what do I do now? And as I'm walking out, I'm thinking, all right, well, maybe he's at lunch. I don't know. As I'm walking out, like this old crusty Navy chief is sitting by there, smoking a Marlboro Red, cool guy. Back in the day, Marlboro Reds were good stuff. He says, hey, bud, come here. I should have known. Don't do it. Get in the car, hightail it out there. Long story short, next thing I know, I'm enlisted in the Navy. I'm going to Great Lakes, Illinois in January. Cold, miserable, not a fun place to be.
Right.
And I'm going to be what's called a hospital corpsman. I'm like, I don't know what is that? He's like, don't, because I had told him, I said, I want to go in the Marine Corps. He says, well, I got something for you. He says, you go be a corpsman and you get to do the next best thing. You can go hang out with the Marines, but you're not a Marine. So you don't have to put up with any of their BS. I bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. Next thing I know, I'm in the Great Lakes, and then, I'm there. I get through boot camp, and then from there, hospital corps school is another 10 weeks there. So I spent the entire winter, which seems like forever in Great Lakes, Illinois, until I left from there and I went to Camp Lejeune and, went to, field medical service school where it's 6-7 weeks of training on, why jarheads act the way they do, how to clean a weapon, how to load a weapon, all that fun filled stuff, how to do rudimentary medicine in a combat environment, in a field environment, don't worry about sterile technique, any of that crap. You got a gunshot wound, stuff dirt in it, it'll be okay. All this fun, crazy stuff, which was really cool. And and that was supposed to be a just a 4-year gig. I was going to get out, go to college, all that good stuff. Well, I met my wife on leave, who's also a Philly girl. Next thing you know, she's with child. And long story short, 22 years later, I retired from the Navy. And
wow, what rank were you when you retired?
I was a NE. I was a senior chief petty officer in the Navy.
Excellent. So, when was this? What year was this that you went in?
I went in from 86 and retired just into 2008.
All right, so 1986. So not a lot of talk about mental health at that time and stuff. No. We were still using stupid terms like shell shock and different things, or at least not widely, but it was still around. Mm-hmm. So while they were training you how to, you're basically triaging out in the field. You're doing quick work,
stabilize.
Yeah, spit on it, rub on it, and get up and move. Put a little mud in it. Was there any conversation about mental health during that time, back in that time?
I will tell you from my core school and the field med piece to it, to even any further training that I went to in between, tours with the Fleet Marine Force, not that I remember, any type like, hey, here's how you handle this type of a mental health crisis, or here's what you do if you come upon this. It was, I don't remember any formal type training. When I went to IDC school.
How about just general discussion? Were people even talking about it?
Very minimal. I
Okay.
mean, to be honest with you, I mean, and there were challenges, when you were the doc with the Fleet Marine Force. I mean, not only were you doc, you were the chaplain, you were a therapist, you were everything. And that's nothing against the Marines, because to me, they're some of the greatest guys and gals on the face of the planet. They would come to you. Hey man, hey doc, I got this going on, whether it's, it's something medically, whether it is mental. Hey, I'm having problems at home. Hey, I need money. Hey, I don't know what to do.
Well, you're the healer of mind,
Right.
body, and spirit.
Right.
So everything comes to you.
Right. And you'd have these conversations, and it would be like, I don't know. And you're kind of acting on the fly. Like, what do I do here? And I have stories. I have a story that I'm ashamed of with a suicidal Marine. And I shared it this morning. Actually, I shared it this morning at the VA with someone, and it's embarrassing to me how I handled this Marine who very well at the time was suicidal, and how I handled it. But it was, to me, it was this attitude of like, hey, this stigma of like, you know what? Don't be soft. Don't be a sissy. We're going forward. We are working up. We have to deploy. I need your tail fit. So I don't want to hear that you're feeling whatever, or you're depressed, or, something is bothering you, and that was the attitude. And even, when I retired in 2007, even then, and we were smarter then, we had gotten much smarter by now. We were in the height of Afghanistan, the height of Iraq, and guys and gals were coming back facing a lot of challenges.
And at that time, they're talking about PTSD openly, or at least we were aware of it and aware of traumas that happen. I'm starting to understand cumulative trauma and different things. But at that point, still on your way out, you're not seeing a big increase in training on this stuff, are you? Which is, I mean, listen, I'm not knocking the military. I love the military.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But it's kind of like that old school thinking. It's like, you're feeling bad, get mad. Right. If you're feeling bad, get badder. Be a badass. Drink it, do it.
Right.
Smoke
and
it,
the
whatever.
mission is like, hey, we're going forward.
Yeah.
I need lead down range. I mean, I can remember the meeting. We need lead down range. I need Lance Corporal such and such and Corporal such and such to deploy. Yeah. I mean, and I said, well, and we, in between, tour 1 and 2, we left, I think 7 or 8 Marines behind, and a couple of them had physical things, but a couple of them were they just had things going on, challenges wise, that you just couldn't in good conscience say, you know what, I can't bring you back to a combat environment when you are dealing with, whatever you're dealing with.
Right.
Or whatever you're seeing, or whatever you're believing, so, you're going to stay behind, and we're going to hopefully get you set up with the kind of treatment you need, but there was a stigma to it. I mean, there was just a stigma like, hey, you know what?
You're supposed to be the badasses of the world.
You're the alpha male.
You are, and any sign of weakness is discouraged, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so we create these stigmas around, it's not okay to not be okay. You have to be okay.
Right.
You have to suck it up, buttercup,
Right.
strap on and move forward. You're right. Absolutely. But obviously we're seeing that's not working. We're having a lot of people coming back damaged.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Even today, and there is some improvements, but working in the VA, first of all, when you got out, was that your plan, was to go work with the VA and help people? Did you have another plan?
No, you know what? I had no intention.
You're a Philly guy. Of course you were going to be a fireman.
Right. I mean, I didn't know really what it was I wanted to do. I was barely 40 years old, or I was just getting ready to hit 40 years old. They always said that you would know that when you wanted to retire and what you wanted to do. Or I said, listen, I was 40 years old, or almost 40 years old, and I was still immature. I had never done anything in my life other than work at the AM PM mini market for a year. And then the rest of my grown up life, I was in the military. So when I got it, I didn't know, and I stumbled upon this job, and because I was trying to get closer to Philly. My wife's from Philly, like I said. I stumbled upon this job at the Pittsburgh VA healthcare system, and they were looking for combat veterans, with a specific background, to work with severely injured and severely ill Iraq and Afghanistan veterans that were coming back from theater. And, I said, oh, that looks kind of cool. I'm going to apply. So I applied. I ended up getting a job. There was 100 of us across the country. And it was my role, and there was two of us. They hired myself, and my partner was a retired Army admin colonel type, smart guy. And him and I did it for almost 11 years together. But it was our job to transition these guys and gals that were getting injured in theater back to the country and transition them from military treatment facilities into the VA healthcare system. And we would literally track them from, guy gets hit, gal gets hit, they're at Bagram, they're at Balad, wherever. We would track them literally from there to Landstuhl, Germany. They stabilize them in Landstuhl, Germany, and then from Landstuhl, Germany, they would bring them back to the States. Soon as we knew they were coming back to the States, and the majority of them went back to like Bethesda, we would mobilize and we would meet them there, and we would meet their families there. And basically my role at that point was to say, okay, mom, dad, wife, girlfriend, whoever it was. All we want you to do is worry about taking care of, Jane or Johnny. He or she may be here a while. Some of these guys and gals were there, depending upon what it was, a year, 2 years. But we're going to help you transition him or her out and into our healthcare system. So when he or she is ready to come, there's no issues. You're already enrolled. You're already registered. We have your appointment set up. We know what you need. If you need a bed, if you need orthotics, if you need whatever, that's all going to be already set up. All you have to do is come and let us know, and we're going to get you squared away and start that process. Easier said than done. Not always easy.
Right.
Government VA is a government bureaucracy. Not always smooth. Did a lot of fighting. I pissed in a lot of people's Wheaties. Because my attitude is like, first of all, I was a veteran. My partner was a veteran. My attitude is like, your mission here at the VA is to take care of veterans.
Yeah.
Figure it out. I know there's rules. I know there's stuff that we got to abide by. It's different than going to St. Mary's or, Kindred down here in Miami or Jackson Memorial. It's different. But the bottom line still is how do we care for our nation's heroes? How do we provide them the best healthcare service? And this is what they need. And if you're not going to give it to me, I'm going to get it. I'm going to find a way to get it.
Well, let me ask you, Buzz, because this is you got offered this job and you went to Pittsburgh. First of all, that's trauma right there.
Absolutely.
If you're from Pittsburgh,
no offense,
I'm not going to apologize. When the best place you have is where three rivers all come together, that's a bad thing. Yeah. All right, I'm sorry. No,
trust me.
Love the Pittsburgh people, all 12 of you. You took this job and you're like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Was it what you expected? Were the people coming back? Because it sounds like you came back, you had a relationship, you had support,
mm-hmm.
you were okay, or at least mostly.
Right.
Were you seeing things that did it shock you to see the condition people came back in, especially mentally?
the physically injured guys and gals, no, because from my tours there, one of my very first injuries was a traumatic amputation from an IED strike in Iraq.
Mm.
You know, you're on a convoy gets hit, you're still taking fire. Marines are doing what Marines do. Hey, Doc, you go get them. We got you. You know, coordinate with everything, return fire, blah, blah, blah. Doc, go there, stabilize them. Let's get them out of here.
And they protect you while you're doing your work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had never at any point feared for my life because I always knew that these guys would take good care of me. And
God
they
bless the
certainly
Marines,
did.
man. God bless the Marines.
I'm telling you, they are the greatest at what they do, and they're the greatest fighting force. And that's nothing against the Army because the Army's good too, but they ain't the Giants. But anyway, so
you've seen the physical.
Yeah, the physical piece didn't bother me. I mean, and the mental piece coming back, I think one of the very first guys and gals that I worked with was a young guy. His name was Clayton Henry, and his phone number is still in my personal phone, who eventually, unfortunately, ended up committing suicide. He came back from Tour 1 in Iraq, the initial push, and he was one of the guys who couldn't deploy forward. And he had physical injuries, meaning, you know, some GI type things and some other type things going on for whatever reason. But in his mind, he believed at one point we had done something that we hadn't done, but he couldn't get past it. And it was a horrific scene that we came upon. It was, you know, a house that had been hit. It could have been friendly fire. It could have been from the Iraqis. It could have been whatever, but it was a family that had been killed and they were all dead. You know, mom, dad, multiple children. And it was just a horrific, traumatic scene. And we just kind of stumbled upon it because it was a house. We weren't sure if it had been cleared or whatever. So we went in and saw it. And this young Marine had saw this and went in, and it traumatized him and couldn't get past it. And we talked a couple years afterwards, and I kept saying, he would come talk to me and he would say, Doc, you know, why did we do what we did? And I kept saying, like, Clay, what do you mean? He says, you know, that house. I would say, I'm like, Clay, we didn't do that. We were the unfortunate unit that came upon it and had to see it and call it in and all that good stuff.
But he saw himself as part of the overall mechanism that killed these
in his
people.
mind,
yeah.
You know, and he never got past it. And unfortunately, he ended up taking his own life.
Oh,
and I struggled with that for many years. Like I said, his number is still on my phone. Just because he was this young kid, he had just become a father. He had a beautiful daughter. And it took me, and I still to this day don't know that I understand it. It took me forever to say, like, you know, why did he react the way he did and I didn't react that way? Or, you know, the other guys in the platoon who were there, why didn't they react that way? Why did he see it that way? Like, why? And those are questions you ask all the time. Like, you know, how did it get to that point? To where he saw it the way he did. And he was getting treatment. He was getting therapy. You know, the VA will tell you all the time that 65% of veterans who unfortunately commit suicide are not seeking care through the VA. And maybe that's true. I don't know. That's what the data says. I don't know if that's true or not. And I'm not going to dispute it, but that's what the data says. But I'll say, but there's many that are seeking therapy and are still unfortunately going through it. I just don't know. And it's something to me that eats at me. It's something that we're still dealing with. And we have suicide prevention teams. Our suicide prevention team is out in the community. They're working with these veterans. They're talking to these veterans. Anybody who wants to hear us, we go out and we talk to them. So it's not that we're not trying. It's not that we're trying to prevent it. And it just, we're losing. We're not winning the battle.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell anybody who wants to hear me, I don't care what the number is until it's zero. It really doesn't matter to me. If we lose one guy or gal to suicide, then we're failing.
I love that thinking. And I don't think there's enough of that. For some reason, they have acceptable losses in all these battles.
Right.
The battles against mental health or mental health issues, the battle against addiction and alcoholism, the battle against suicide. numbers go down and everybody celebrates. But you're right. Why are we celebrating when it's not zero? Because everybody counts. And the truth is, the amount of impact we're having is so insignificant still. It is significant what we do, and everybody who helps, it's important. But when we're only servicing 10 to 15% of the people who absolutely need that kind of help, now that's what it's like in addictions. I don't know what it's like with the veterans, but I can't imagine that number's a lot better because you got budget restrictions and rules and all these different things you got to follow and procedures. We've got a long way to go. The stigma is probably the biggest and the first thing. These things have to become normal. If somebody breaks their arm when they jump into a ditch, you're catching fire, you jump into a ditch, 100 guys jump into a ditch, one guy jumps in and he just lands wrong and breaks his arm. Does he walk around full of shame that he broke his arm? Does he hide it from people? Does everybody say you're weak? They might laugh at him a little because if it's the Marines, they're like, rub some dirt on it, right? But you're not treated with that condescending or that badness. Mental health is the same way. 100 people can all see the same thing, but in one person, for sometimes no explanation, something breaks. And until we start treating it that way, tell me if I'm out of line on this. What do you think?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you're out of line at all. Because I agree with that. Like I said, I mean, I have another scenario. We had a guy who tore his ACL and couldn't deploy. Well, no one shamed this young. No one shamed Lance Corporal such and such because he couldn't go because he tore his knee up. But if Lance Corporal Jones says, "Hey, I'm having thoughts, or I'm depressed, or I'm losing my emotions, or I'm struggling with this," all of a sudden, wait a second now, hold on now, you're a Marine. That shit don't happen with us.
Right.
You suck that up. You go pack your gear and let's go. Or better yet, let me take you out on the grinder. We'll do a little PT and we'll PT the PTSD out of you. That's rub some
Trust
me,
dirt
that don't work. Right. That don't work.
No, what it does though, it could create a resentment and an anger that people will run on that. Yeah. But sooner or later, that mental health stuff catches up to you. Right. Now, I know this happens with the military. It happens with police. It happens with firefighters. Mm-hmm. All first responders face this same issue of not being able to not be okay. Are we heading in the right direction? Like you said, when you started out, you got all that training. Nowhere in there does it say make sure people are in the right headspace. It's like if they can pull the trigger, get them forward.
Let downrange.
So has that changed since then? I know you're not active now, but you're involved with the VA. You're involved with what's going on. Are we seeing any kind of change?
I think we're better. I don't think we're great. I think I'll speak VA. I think at the VA we have many programs. We have our suicide prevention teams. We have mental health providers, and we have guys and gals that are getting that. The services are there. The question is are our guys and gals utilizing their service, take advantage of their service? And I'll tell you, Palm Beach County, my era of veteran, which we'll say Persian Gulf till now, post 9/11, whatever, they're not utilizing their services for whatever reason. They're not coming. And that's one of the roles in my job now as the community relations and engagement is to get out in the community and work with veteran service organizations, veteran friendly businesses, the congressional liaison offices, anybody really who wants to hear veteran. Like, you want to talk veteran? I'll come out and we'll talk veteran all day long. Here's what we can do for you. Why are your employees not coming? Hey, PBSO, why aren't your officers coming to the VA? Is it because they're worried about the stigma of the job? Like, are they worried about, I have to carry a weapon. If I'm labeled as someone who has this or that, are they going to take me off the street and put me behind a desk? Or something like that.
Absolutely.
Or fire rescue. Like, you see all these guys and a lot of these guys, and like I said, that are sheriffs and police officers or fire rescue and stuff like that. These guys are veterans. These are guys who've been forward, who've seen bad things. And then you come back and, you're fire rescue, in South Florida, I mean, anywhere, any major city. I mean, you see some traumatic things almost on a daily basis. I mean, and I can't imagine that helps someone who may already be struggling with whatever demons they're facing from things they may have seen forward. And I will tell you, from a combat scenario, whether you're a frontline guy or whether you're a guy that was slinging chow or whatever, combat's combat. It's a bad place. On any given day, at any given time, your number might be up. And, we in Iraq in 2004, before we went into Fallujah, there was a Navy, Master Chief Petty Officer who was killed by a mortar round that they just happened to lob, and it ended up landing at Camp Fallujah. And this poor cat just happened to be in the wrong place at the right time and was killed. And this guy who was not in, forward, and fighting through the streets of Fallujah like,
right.
Some units did. You just never know. So the trauma is all around you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you don't have to be a forward combat
right.
Troop or anybody to be in a helicopter when it goes down, because you guys use so much equipment all the time. There's gonna be equipment failure. There's gonna be accidents. Right. There's gonna be things that happen. Jeeps overturning, this and that, all those other things. There's so many things that can happen. So you're constantly in that state of, and you're separated from your people. Right. You're separated from your world. You're in a different world now. And now you're coming back. Mm-hmm. And this is where you come in. And thank God for the work that you do. And the VA does. In the VA, I mean, listen, if the VA ever runs up against a budget crunch, there's something seriously wrong with that. That should be a priority in America.
Absolutely. I agree.
Taking care of our veterans. There's many, many countries that elevate veterans to a level where when they return, they are treated almost as royalty. I mean, it's not, but they're helped and they're aided and they're not left behind. We have a higher concentration of homeless veterans than any place in the world, more than 5 times any place in the world. That should never happen.
I agree.
And even if they don't go to the services, they don't know the services exist. I think it still comes down to, we got to openly be able to talk about it.
Sure.
They got to know about these services while they're in combat, not on the plane ride home. Oh, here's a brochure. Go see Dr. Bob. You got it right.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I remember when I was retiring, and I dealt with this down here as well. 12 years after I had retired, I don't remember any conversation in my TAPS class, which is your transition class. You've spent a week there and they come talk to you about, hey, here's what you want to do. Here's how you write a resume, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, wait, excuse me. I'm sorry. 22 years of service. You got 1 week to change into reintegrate into life.
Correct. So think about taking,
that makes sense.
Think about taking 22 years of service and trying to put that on a 2-page resume. I can remember thinking like, I don't know what the heck to write. I don't know what to put down here. They're like, oh, you did all this and this, and you were retired as this. I said, yeah, but I don't know how to make all of that
relevant
to Cigna or Merrill Lynch or whoever. I mean, I don't. I didn't. I didn't at the time. And like I said, it worked out for me, but I don't remember any conversation about the VA. But I'll tell you a story here. So when we first got here, we were talking about, hey, where do you do your transition classes? And, there's no, in Palm Beach where we're at, there's no military installation. There's a couple National Guard units, a couple reserve units, and we are well-versed with them, and we meet with them all the time and talk to them. And you have Homestead down here, and you have Southcom down here, and you go a little bit further north, you have, Patrick Air Force Base in Cocoa. So we found out Patrick Air Force Base was doing, this is no shot at Patrick Air Force Base, but they were doing transition classes. So I said, hey, can we be a part of that? I said, can we get into that period of time? Oh, I just broke my thing. Can we get into that period of time, where, we come and give us 15 minutes, 30 minutes to just talk about, hey, here's why it's important to enroll in the VA.
Yeah.
Enrolling in the VA, registering in the VA is not a damn reenlistment contract. So I tell these guys and go, you're not reenlisting for 4 more years by agreeing to enroll in the VA. It's just sign up. Take advantage of what is there. Even if you don't want to use us on a continuous basis, or, hey, I got a job and I don't need it. I got good health care. Yeah, well, just take advantage of what we can provide you. But so long story short, they said, well, we're in the process of revamping our TAPS class. And we've been told we need to cut it down. What do you think they cut out? They cut the VA out. I remember saying, wait, I said, you're cutting the VA out? I said, Do you know how important it is to just say, hey, enroll? Because I was one of the dummies. I was working for the VA and didn't enroll until my wife said, you better take your ass down there and sign up because you got issues, pal.
Well, I got to tell you, my grandfather, the end of his life without the VA, I mean, the VA helped him live 20 years beyond the illnesses that started coming. And it was, and my grandfather, he fought, he was in the 3rd Armored Car Division under Patton.
Right.
He met Patton. He fought, in Germany. He did all that stuff. And he comes back, and thank God they had those services. But he was still, it was underfunded. And there was long waits, and there was a lot of things that were going on. But to even just to even think that, oh, we don't need to tell them about that. And that's so ridiculous.
Right. And I tell, and our World War II veterans, unfortunately, are almost all gone now. And our Korean War veterans are right there with them. And Vietnam, I mean, because Korea, I mean, my dad passed away this past May, and he was Vietnam, and he was 80 years old. So these guys we're about to lose an entire generation of American heroes and veterans. I mean, our World War II veterans, they changed the world. People don't, they literally changed the world. And these guys, they came back, and, they'd spend, I think about this all the time. We go and we do an 8-month deployment, 1-year deployment, and we come back, we're bitching, we're complaining, this and that. These guys went to the Pacific, the European campaign. They were going for 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
And they came and they did what they had to, and then they came back. They didn't talk about it. They went right back and got a job and lived a successful life.
But look how they were treated when they came back as well, though.
True. Very true.
There was a little bit of a different time.
Right.
You came home with a uniform after World War II. It was, maybe not thank you for your service, but there was a lot of respect.
Right. Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of respect. And there was a great number of them that all stuck together and helped each other. Right. It was not uncommon for my grandfather to be every Sunday sitting around with 7 or 8 other vets in the diner eating breakfast, But that's different now. You come back, and it's almost like you're on your own.
It's different, and it's harder. And, I gained a lot of respect for our reserve forces. Our reservists are, for a while there in the height of Iraq, Afghanistan, our reserve forces were as active as the active duty. It was really crazy. But these guys, you come back and there's many challenges, but these guys, the importance of registering for the VA is because when you become that World War II veteran who towards the end of your life, and when you have a lot of things going on, it's so much harder to get enrolled and utilize the services for whatever reason. I mean, there's, it changed, the laws change. Not every veteran is entitled to VA healthcare. And that's a whole other topic. People don't realize that. Like, just because you served doesn't mean you're entitled to VA healthcare.
I have somebody close to me, and I'm not going to mention who because I don't want to, but went into served 5 years in the Marines. However, developed an alcohol and drug problem towards the end, and was dishonorably discharged, and all benefits taken away, and cannot get any help. And it's like they came to you, a person and they got sick in your care, in your service. I'm not saying that it's completely your responsibility, but shouldn't there be some sort of system there where it's like, listen, we got you. You tried. Things went bad for you, but we're gonna have your back. And initially, that was the truth. If you had anything other than an honorable, you could get some benefits with a general discharge, depending upon how that general discharge was rated. Like it could be general under than honorable or general other than honorable, But if you had anything past that, like an OTH, a BCD, or a bad discharge, you were, there was nothing for you. You couldn't get. That's changed now. Now you can get care. You can get mental health care. You can get substance abuse care. It's still challenging, but those services are available for our guys and gals because we've had so many guys, especially in my era veteran, who have come back with these issues, with drug and alcohol issues, with mental health issues, who are suicidal, who are on the streets. We have to. I think the VA recognizes now that we owe them. They have earned the care that they need, and a lot of it is due to the fact that
it was their service that caused them to get where they got to go or to get to where they are now.
Yeah.
I mean, I served with a staff sergeant who was a poster-born Marine who had multiple combat tours, a Bronze Star with Valor, just was a hero. And he ended up getting kicked out of the Marine Corps because he assaulted an officer. And I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but he was dealing with PTSD. He was dealing with them things, and he was drinking, and he was self-medicating, and he had an incident with someone. He ended up, knocking the shit out of the guy. And long story short, Marine Corps NJP'd him, kicked him out. For years, we fought to get him help because he spiraled out of control. And I kept saying, this is a guy who was an active duty Marine who had re-enlisted multiple times. So he had 2 honorable discharges, 3 combat tours, and leading kids in combat, men in combat. And because he made one mistake in one split second, thanks. See ya. There's the door.
Wow.
You're on your own, buddy. Now that has since changed.
And that's great. And I want to make sure that we share with people, we're not making an indictment against the VA or against the military system because things are changing. But all of that change, if we remain silent and if we ignore the problem, it's for nothing. So we must be able to have those conversations. Now I got to ask you. I mean, thank you for what you do, and you're dedicated to that now. What does your wife think about what you do?
I don't know. She thinks I work a lot.
She thinks
I do spend a lot of time. My role here in West Palm.
Well, she's a veteran too.
My wife's not a veteran. No.
I thought she worked in the military.
No. She's not a veteran, but she just puts up with a veteran. And
that's even worse.
Her dad was a veteran.
That's
my
even
dad
worse.
was a veteran. It is. It really is. I will tell you, a military spouse is one of the hardest jobs in the world to be, or a mother, or a sibling. It's not easy to see your loved one go forward or deployed or whatever, and then you have to stay back, raise the kids, manage the household, take care of all that other stuff. I tell people all the time, I said, my 3 sons, any success that they have is because of her. Because I would pick up and go, and I'd disappear for a year and come, and she is the reason why they are the kids that they are today, or men that they are today.
Well, let's give a nod to the first responder wives as
absolutely,
well.
Same thing.
Not that long ago, just a few short years ago, we had such a crisis in this country with police, and that almost every time a police officer was going out, it was almost like they were going on duty. Military, he didn't know if they're going to get shot at or what was going to happen.
Think about it. You're from Philadelphia as well. Think about some of the neighborhoods in Philadelphia. Some of them neighborhoods are as dangerous, and it's not just Philly. It's Boston, New York.
I've been robbed in Philly.
There are, and I'm proud that I'm from Philly, but there are areas in the city that are as dangerous as what I saw in Iraq. And I tell people, I said, when you say goodbye to your husband who is a paramedic or a fireman or a police officer, and they go out there and they're on patrol and they're doing anything, it ain't easy, man. And any given time, they may not come home.
Every time there's a phone ring, every time there's a knock on the door, somewhere in the back of your head, there's that little possibility of what happened.
Right.
And I get that. And being the parent of someone with a mental health issue, addiction, or alcoholism, it's the same deal.
Wait for that call.
It's waiting for that call. So I want to move on. I got a copy of your book here, and I want to share this with everybody. The book is The Warrior's Book of Virtues, a field manual for living your best life. Nick, Matt, and yourself, are these guys that you've worked with before, or friends of yours, or
both? So Nick and Matt, I deployed with to Iraq.
Oh wow!
And they were both in Fallujah in November of 2004. So they were both forward. Matt was in my platoon. Nick wasn't initially, but then got pulled into my platoon. So yeah, we got to know each other very closely, very intimately, and Nick one day out of the blue, and I hadn't seen Nick in probably, 10 years, and he says, "Hey, I got this great idea." I'm like, here we go. Because he's like this idea.
Oh, he's one of those guys.
He's one of the, right. Hey, man, I was thinking. And I'm
somehow
like,
I'm going to end up naked on a roof. I don't know what's happening.
Right. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I'm not drinking tequila with you, bro. I'm But anyway, he says, what do you think about this idea? What if we talk about this? And I'm like, I don't know, dude. And then I found out that he had written another book, for mental health first aid, mental health emergencies, how to deal with this and that. And I'm thinking, you were a Lance Corporal in the Marine Corps. You were an idiot when we served together. You wrote a book. And so I got the book and I read the book and then I took mental health first aid and I was like, this is pretty good. How do what'd you get into? And he got into that. And I was like, this is pretty good stuff. So he pitched the idea of this book and he pitched it to me and he says, yeah, I was thinking about talking to Bloom about it too. And I said, okay. I said, I don't know, man. I said, I don't know how to write a book. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say, and he says, well, let's just talk about it, and they got these publishers involved. And, and at first I was really like, I don't think I want to do this, man. This is like, what do you want me to talk about? Like, what am I supposed to say? I go, why does my life or what might have worked for me, have anything to do with, your life or someone else's life, or how is what I did or didn't do going to help somebody else?
Right.
And we talked about it and we got about, the principles, and this and that and the virtues and all this. And I said, all right, long story short, we finally agreed to it, and then you'd get these calls and it'd be like, from the publishers, or you get an email at like 4:00 in the afternoon, like saying, hey, I need you to write 180 pages on fortitude by tomorrow morning. I'm like, I don't even know what fortitude is, dude. I'm from Philadelphia. What do you mean fortitude? Temperance? What does that mean?
Fortitude, F you.
Right. I said, I'll tell you fortitude in South Philadelphia if you want. And, so we ended up doing it. And, my attitude going into it the whole time, or when we were done with it, and we did some book signings and some media type things. And my whole attitude is, I guess if one person reads this book and learns a little bit about whatever, or it helps them, or it makes them think about something that may be bothering them, then I'm cool with that. Then it's cool. I mean, I don't care like what royalties we get or any of that other crap. I mean, it just was,
if it carries a message that helps somebody.
Right. And we, we thought it like initially, like we thought like it would reach the, like that demographic of like 16-year-old to 25-year-old or young military guys and gals. And what we found is it's touched a lot of people. Like we've talked to people who were, going through divorces, and people who were, challenged with substance and alcohol abuse and things like that, where there was a whole demographic that I don't think that we expected to buy the book or see the book or read the book or say, hey, it's on my nightstand and I glance at it all the time, or I'll open up something and read about, your piece in there about whatever. So that was really cool about it. And it's a good little book. It's a good little, I tell people, I go, to me, it's like a reference. I mean, you can go in there and look at strategies and, hey, I'm facing this. How do I do this? Or how did I resolve this? Or
I definitely see this as a manual. Like you said, it's a field manual, right. And you read through it and then you keep it in your living room or on the shelf somewhere accessible. And when you're going through something, remind yourself of some of these virtues. Right. I love on the back, it says, don't settle for less and don't make excuses for yourself. Become inspired to achieve your full potential and complete every objective you set. And that's using principles and virtues that you've learned in the military to do that.
There's a lot of it that you don't even realize you do it.
Yeah.
You just, it has been ingrained in you, and it's, it's that fight or flight. It's there. It's ingrained in you, and it's ingrained in a lot of people. And hopefully, sometimes that'll touch upon that or make you recall something like, oh, you know what? I remember in that I saw this here, or Buzz talked about this, or Bennis or Bloom talked about, a circumstance. And we talk about some of our, we have some scenarios in there and that, that were examples of what, Nick, Matt, or myself, went through or faced. And it's just, to me, it's like a guideline. Hey, look, if this will make you better for whatever reason, or you see that it helps you get through whatever, then it's a success.
I think it's a perfect read, and I got a copy right here. It's not signed because he doesn't like me enough to do that. But
I could have bought you a free one, but I appreciate it. You know?
No. Again, this is the Warrior's Book of Virtues, a field manual for living your best life, and this is on Amazon. You can get it.
Yeah.
Very, very simply, and you can look it up through any of the authors, or definitely just the Warrior's Book of Virtues. I pulled it up very quickly, so it's a great book, and it's written as a manual that you could refer to when you're having difficult times or making decisions. One thing that the military has always been good at, it's about discipline in your task, and that's something that many people lack in their life. Just because things are so easy now, we don't always learn discipline, do we? Back in the day, like you said, World War II, back in those days, even before you went in the military, you had an understanding of discipline in life. Nowadays, everything's just too damn easy.
And everybody wants the easy, fast,
fast.
I want it now. Yeah. I want it now. Forget about, I don't want to work. Why would I work hard when I could just do this?
Yeah. Yeah. It creates almost a weakness in us for that kind of discipline. And so finding a guide like this could be really important. It's something maybe to share with your teenagers too.
I remember, and this tells my age, and I'm in my 50s. I can remember my father-in-law, when he would read, and he was an avid reader, he always had a dictionary with him. I'm like, what is he doing with his dictionary, man? And he said to me, he finally explained to me, he says, let me explain it to you, dummy. He says, when I'm reading, if I come across a word that I may not know, or it's like, why is it being used in this context? I open up the dictionary, look the word up, so I learn a new word. Yeah. And, we don't do that anymore. Like, I don't even know do we even have hard dictionaries anymore?
They're still out there, but you know what? What's even funnier is, even when we're writing, we might put the wrong word in, spell check fixes it, and we don't even know what we've written.
Right. Because
it's instant. My grandfather used to sit with dictionary next to his lazy boy chair with the duct tape on the arms, because it's but you don't throw those lazy boys away. You don't throw those away. And he would do his New York Times crossword puzzle in pen. And when he wasn't doing a crossword puzzle, he'd be watching a war movie, watching baseball, reading the dictionary. And he actually used to sit and just read it. Mm-hmm. He loves Scrabble too. And I always can't bitch that he wins because he studied the dictionary. Right. I said, why don't you read a regular book? He goes, every book is in here. Right. It's just in a different order. Yeah. So that's a discipline to extend yourself and learn.
Right. It's so easy to take the easy way now.
Yeah.
It really is. And that's not a knock on this generation or anything like that. It's just the times. Like I look at Chat GPT and AI and all these things like that. You can go into, AI or Chat GPT and type in, A, B, C, D, E. Yeah. And within a minute, you have a complete written paragraph, whatever, on A, B, C, D.
Right.
It's amazing.
Well, it's a trade-off. Right. We can have unlimited knowledge at our fingertips. But what we trade is the discipline of learning. We trade that. So it's about finding balance. And if you really want to achieve things in your life, it's about learning to do that. Now, before we run out of time, I just want to kind of, I forgot my list. It's all right. I had some questions I usually like to ask people, but we'll do it next time, because I'm hoping you'll come back and do this again.
Anytime you want.
Because there's a lot more I'd like to talk about. You're working with the VA, West Palm Beach, Veterans Administration Healthcare. You're helping people that are coming back.
Hopefully,
let's say you get to decide. You've seen it from when you first enrolled back in the 80s to when you retired in 2007 or so, and then you've seen what's going on with the VA. We are heading in the right direction. Yeah. What would you like to see happen over the next 5 to 10 years? What would you really like to see?
I think, we have this past year was the year of the act, the Compact Act, the PAC Act, the Service Act, and we have all these new services and new opportunities and eligibilities for our veteran. I want that to continue. I think we need to continue to progress. We need to continue to do more. We need to continue to create the eligibilities and open up the eligibilities for our veterans to get these services. We are out on the street. We talk about the suicide prevention teams. You had mentioned homeless. We have homeless outreach teams too that literally will go out onto the street. They'll go into the woods. We'll go into these camps and find veterans. And are we successful with all of them? No. Some of them choose that lifestyle, for whatever reason. And I say that sometimes, and a lot people look at me like, what do you mean they choose that lifestyle? I said, listen, some of these guys and gals are content, or they're okay with, hey, I wake up in the morning. There's a shelter right here. There's somewhere right here where I can go get cleaned up, get breakfast. Then I kind of hang out for a while, wherever. Same lunch occurs, afternoon. And then they figure out, okay, where am I going to hunker down at night? Am I going to stay in the mangroves off of here, or am I going to go here? Is there a shelter I can get into? Like, one of the things about South Florida is it rarely gets cold. It's not like when I was in Pittsburgh and it was 10 degrees below zero.
Or Philly or
and
anything.
These poor guys and gals are on grates, and they can't get into shelters, and it's frigid. And I mean, they choose it. How do we change that? How do we get them on? How do we deal with? How do we get better with helping these guys and gals with addiction? We have Veterans Court. A lot of these veterans, we can say, hey, listen, you made a mistake. You had and most of them are misdemeanors. They're not serious crimes. But I mean, if you're willing to get help, if you're willing to take treatment, it'll keep you out of jail. Would you rather be incarcerated or get treatment? And in 18 months, if you abide by the rules, if you get the treatment, if you get the therapies, your charges are going to be dismissed. They're going to go away. You're going to be exonerated. So I think we're doing a lot of good things. I think we just need to continue to build. We need to continue the service. I mean, it's the largest healthcare organization in the world, the VA. It's not easy to run it. It is hard. We are not perfect, but I will tell you, the data, once again, if you believe in data, it tells you we are better than most private facilities. We are better than most community facilities, but you have to take advantage of utilizing it. How do we get the word out to these guys and gals who are not utilizing our services? And I know as the community engagement guy in West Palm Beach, which takes me from Sebastian all the way down here to Pompano and west into Pahokee and the Glades and this. How do I get the message out there? And we're out everywhere. We go everywhere. This past weekend we were at Rib Roundup. We're going up to Okeechobee for something this weekend, and then the following weekend we're somewhere else. There's not a weekend that goes by, or an evening, or an event that we aren't willing to attend or willing to go out and say, hey, here's what we do. You have a question, ask. Just ask. I'll tell you, and I'll provide that information for you. If you want to enroll, I'll bring enrollment right here, and we will enroll you on the spot if you don't want to come to the VA.
Now, what about us regular people, non-military, but we want to help? What are some good ways that we can get involved and help?
I mean, there's always volunteer opportunities at the VAs. Any VA, you can go there and you can volunteer your time. You can get involved with our veteran service organizations. There's some great ones down here or throughout Florida. We have one, Wounded Veteran Relief Foundation, which is amazing. They do amazing things for our veterans. There's a brand new one down here, South Barracks Legend Foundation, which is run by a former Marine who was suicidal at one point in his life after his service, as well as a recovering alcoholic. He gets it. He knows. He's been there. He's done that. He's walked in them.
So the VA is a good source of information for people too.
I can provide you all the resources, community resources, business resources, legislative resources. It's one-stop shopping. As I tell people, all you got to do is call me. I promise you, if I don't have the answer, I'm going to know where to send you, or I'm going to tell you who to contact.
Do you want to put your number out there just to let people know who to call?
Sure. You want me to tell you?
Yeah, tell them.
Personal or not? You can call me anytime. So I'll give you my email address at the VA. It's Richard, RICHARD .Bryan, BRYAN @VA.gov. Email me, or you can call me. My cell phone is 561-670-9347. I promise you, I will. If I don't answer when you call, if you leave me a message, I will call you back. and I will help you in any way that I can.
Absolutely. And if you have any issues reaching him, please just leave a comment and we'll get back to you. We'll make sure that we share that information. But get involved and help
Absolutely.
people. Sorry. Reminder once again, The Warrior's Book of Virtues, a field manual for living your best life, is available on Amazon. Check it out. I also want to take a moment to thank sponsors for today's show, Haven for Heroes and Valor Lakes, both doing work with veterans and doing good work as well. So thank you for being a sponsor for today's show. We do appreciate that. And one thing that One Brother, One Sister is, we put this show out, right. Sober Life Studios, One Brother, One Sister. And One Brother, One Sister is dedicated to training first responders and veterans, as well as active military, in dealing with mental health, addiction, and trauma, and all of that. So we're dedicated to that as well. What I would like to offer you is if you got a couple people at the VA that want to come down any day, you come down. We could film a bunch of little 2-minute shorts that you can use to send out to people, that you could send information. Sometimes people will sit and watch a video before they'll read an email or a flyer. Yeah. And maybe we can make a series of those for you. I'll dedicate, we'll donate our time and our resources to help you guys with that so you can get the word out more. That
would be awesome. I appreciate that. And I know you guys are coming up to the VA in West
We're
Palm
going to be up there next week. Absolutely.
Which is awesome. But yeah, I may take you up on them spots, but I think, I appreciate what you guys do here. Any form that we can utilize to get the message out is something that we want. We have marketed, we have done a ton of, we have a great communications team at the VA, and it's just hard. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's hard to get, not everybody is on InstaFace and Facebook and all that good stuff. You know what I mean?
I just updated my MySpace account.
Right. So, not everybody utilizes those things. And it's not just like people say, oh, you have the seasoned veterans, there's World War II guys. I said, there's guys that are my era veteran who don't want no parts of that.
Yeah.
So, you can't always say, well, it's on social media. Okay. Well, what if you're not on X and all that kind of stuff? Where do you go? How do you get that information? Oh, just visit our website. Once again, what if they're
Yeah. Well, how do they even get that website to begin with? Correct. So there's all sorts of things.
Right.
I say you put it in Yellow Pages, and most of you don't even know what that is, do you?
They still make them.
I don't know. Are there still phone books?
I don't know. You remember they used to get delivered to you.
Oh, when you had a Philly phone book?
Yeah, it's this thick.
Oh, jeez.
It's a dictionary.
Oh, it was ridiculous. Oh, it was back in the days. Buzz, thank you so much. Thank you for the work you do. Thank you for your service. And please share our gratitude with all of the people up there at the VA and all the great work that they do. Right now, somebody's sitting there feeling quite alone. Mm-hmm. Somebody's sitting there, they don't understand what's going on with them, or they don't feel good, or they can't get back into life, and they feel alone. What do you want to tell them?
I would say reach out, ask for help, call me. Walk into the VA, walk into any emergency room. If you're a veteran with the Compact Act nowadays, if you are dealing with a crisis, or if you're feeling alone, or you're feeling isolated, or you're feeling whatever, you can walk into any emergency room and the VA will take care of that bill. We will make sure you get the help and any follow-up care that you need. You don't have to be enrolled. You don't have to utilize the VA. You can walk right into any facility. And now, once again, you have to let us know, and we will make sure that it is taken care of.
All right. So nobody has to suffer. Nobody is alone. And hey, it ain't perfect. We're a long way from perfect, sure, but we're moving in the right direction. And I want to thank all of you out there, first responders, and especially today, our veterans. Thank you for your service. Thank you for all that you've done for this country. This country owes you a debt of gratitude, and there are services there that show you how grateful we are. Please take advantage of them. Please. For my guest, Buzz Bryan, I'm Scott Jones. Thank you for joining us. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends. We'll catch you next time right here on the Calling Podcast. Bye-bye.